My name's Susan Kilsby. I'm a dairy analyst with the Agri HQ division at the New Zealand Stock Exchange. In my role, I monitor the global dairy markets and report on what is happening. So the main players in the global dairy markets are the United States, Europe and New Zealand in terms of the volume of milk or milk products supplied into the global markets. So we're really expecting to see growth in all of these markets over the next 12 months. The US market's been growing quite strongly for the past couple of years. Milk prices there are reasonably stable at average levels, but feed prices are low. And so that's encouraging more milk to come out of that market, and any extra milk will eventually find its way onto those international markets. In Europe, we saw a lot of growth in milk supply after the quotas were removed in April 2015. Very, very strong growth. That then fell away last year when farm-gate milk prices came back and returns to farmers fell. So we saw a slowdown in milk supply at that time, and we're just starting to see growth again. Milk prices there are high enough and the international commodity prices are high enough to encourage more milk, and that will find its way onto the international markets. We still have a big stockpile of skim milk powder in Europe. That's been there building up for a couple of years. And eventually that will have to be worked through. But at the moment, the longer that stock's sitting there in products sitting there in stock, the less valuable it comes and the less influence it's going to have on the markets when it is released, because it'll be released progressively. And so we're having, I guess, the fear that it'll have a big impact on those markets is slowly being reduced over time. In New Zealand, we're also expecting to see some growth in milk supply over the next 12 months. We've just come through a period of very low milk prices where milk supply contracted. We also had really poor weather conditions last year, which slowed milk production down. At the moment, we're in our off-season, so there's very little milk being produced, but as the cows come back in milk in August and September, we do expect to see some strong growth in supply, and that's going to mean there's going to be more product coming onto those international markets. So at the moment, demand is okay, but it's not fantastic. It's probably the best way to sum it up. We're seeing really good demand from China, and some of that's because their own milk supply has been down and expected to stay down for a little bit. But in the other markets, we just aren't seeing the same buoyancy. In the Middle East and other markets that are very close, where their economies are very closely linked to the oil price, we're seeing very subdued demand, and that's not going to really change until the price of oil increases. So elsewhere in the world, demand is okay, so we're expecting to see it stable. But if we see the supply growth continuing to grow, well then that's going to put pressure on prices going forward if the demand isn't there to match that supply. So what we're watching is really milk supply in those big milk exporting regions, but particularly Europe is the one we're probably watching the most closely. We're expecting that to grow. We're just starting to see growth now, but exactly how quickly that grows is something we're watching pretty closely. On the demand side, we're also watching China very closely. China's always a difficult to market to get really good information and data out of, so we'll be watching that and seeing where they go with in terms of import volumes.